Grant Nuckolls, what's up, dude?
What's up, man?
How are you?
I'm good.
Man, so I was like, dang, I need to get this dude on. And
Yeah.
we've never like formally sit down and had a conversation.
That's right.
We know each other through multiple mutual networks and
Right.
different scales of business and walks of life, I guess, but never got to actually hang out with you.
Yeah, it's cool. I've been looking forward to it. I'm telling you, been wanting to see the digs up here in person. Looks good.
Yeah, man. So tell me kind of, you have your hands in a lot of things, which I admire that. And we talked about it just a second before, but I want to kind of let you get into it here. Tell me kind of how that happened and the story of, all that and where you're at now.
Yeah, so born and raised in Shreveport. Family's been here a long time. Went to Tulane. Growing up, thought I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
Got into all that. Med school, I took business classes, but I was taking this science. So I guess in the back of my mind, business came more naturally to me. I was from a family of small business people, but tried that deal a few times and that was tough. So I said, I'll just take the damn LSAT, and I did that and just stayed a fifth year, got a master's. That was during Katrina. That was crazy. But anyway, came back.
What year was that?
That was 06.
Okay, yeah, dude. Okay, yeah.
So, but came back to a few summers. I worked to intern at Hardware Resources, which is a big company most people don't know about in Bossier. They manufacture kitchen and cabinet hardware primarily. And my mentor and boss at the time, Jeff Lowe, had founded that company, and I went back and worked for him, and it was awesome. I mean, he's one of these guys that wanted to do everything in-house. I was young, and that's the only job I ever had outside of working for my dad at the car wash when I was young. So, I mean, as much as you would take, he would give you. So I went to China 15 times in 4 years. Got into product management and learned about manufacturing and product development and marketing. I'm a business of that size. You can learn about everything.
Man, that whole, people don't know about that.
Dude.
Like when it goes into the manufacturing and the product management and like the project management and then piecing all that together, like that is insane.
And then you talk about, I think at the time, maybe 20 factories, 5 warehouses in America, hundreds of containers coming in over the course of a year, maybe thousands. And so it was fun. It was a lot of work, but I was single or just dating at the time, so I didn't know any better. I thought that was normal to work those crazy hours. And working in China, when you're getting up, they're going to bed and vice versa. So, oftentimes you have to stay up late or get up super early and talk to them about a problem that might have happened over the course of the day or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, that was fun. He ended up selling to private equity a couple times, and on his way out, I could tell they were going to bring in a lot of middle-aged dudes, a lot older than me. So it was going to become a much more stable, probably more stable with layers, but the days of me running and gunning and just drinking from a fire hose were probably over. And so I had looked at a business called Twisted Root Burger on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Dad actually had seen it on a Guy Fieri episode years ago. So as Shreveport Bossier people do, you go to Dallas on the weekend, whatever. We went once, loved it. Maybe 6 months later, went again. And I eventually reached out to them when I was thinking about making a career move. I had none restaurant experience. But they were, as it turns out, at the time, they had 5 or 6 restaurants, so they were just starting. They got their FDD, their franchise agreement together, and they were just starting to look for the potential of a franchise. And they were looking in Louisiana and Oklahoma. They wanted somewhere far enough away from Dallas, but not too far. So I met with the guys a few times. They basically said, we like a lot of your experience. We don't like the fact that you have 0 restaurant experience. Come over here on a summer, as many weekends as you want. Come kick the tires, work every restaurant, work the kitchen, scrub the bathrooms, get behind the grill, do all of it. So I did that 6 or 7, 8 trips to Dallas over the course of a summer. And at the end of it said, okay, they said, we're still going to want you to hire, experienced managers and all that, but at least you've gotten a taste of it. And so that was 2012. We bought an acre of undeveloped land. At that time, both sides of Line Avenue right there was totally empty for the most part. And bought that acre of land, built the building, opened in 2013. And so that was the first kind of foray into the restaurant retail world.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that place, I remember when that, you kind of set that footprint in that area. You know, it was slowly developing, but nothing retail or restaurant down that way.
As a kid, I grew up in Spring Lake because a lot of people even then were like, "You're crazy for putting a restaurant or anything right there. There's nothing there." And I'm like, I knew that was one of the top, at least then, I think still is, top 10 or 15% performing Outbacks in America, because there weren't there wasn't much, if any, restaurant retail out there. So growing up in Spring Lake and certainly everywhere south, so I felt like the area was underserved, and so now every bit of land on both sides of the street, from Dumbarton, damn near the Middle Magnet, has been purchased, and most of it's been developed.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. And then all that area back there by Red River Range and D1 and all that.
And you were in that place for what, 12 years?
We 11
years?
Yeah, we built in 12, opened in 13, so we had little over 10 years opened. Yeah.
Got you.
So it was a good run. I mean, it was, I love the brand, still do. I think we opened at the right time. We opened when, right before, you had Great Raft and Red River Brewing opened right then. And then, Maryland's was and Rhino was a few years before, Key a few years after. I mean, if you think of all the really cool, unique brands, Shreveport was really lacking in cool, unique
it was just franchise. There was just franchises like in some, I guess, locally owned restaurants that had been here forever.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah. So that was great. Over the years, we got more and more competition, which happens. Every time a large super center development like a Super Kroger or Whole Foods development comes in, they typically buy huge tracts of land, and then restaurants come in there. They basically force supply into an area. So you saw that happen. I saw as the economy got tougher in and out of COVID, you saw a lot of restaurants that don't normally serve burgers. That's an easy handle to pull if you want to bump sales at a restaurant.
Right.
You could be a Mexican place, you could be fine dining, but you throw in a burger night. Saw that happen. Saw the country clubs do burger nights. It got very successful for them. Then COVID hit, got out of that. And then inflation, I was telling you, we raised our prices, I think, almost 50% in 18 months. And that just killed a lot of demand.
That's what people think. Like people don't realize, and they need to think about it. It's like you have a lot of components. Like you said, you have a market that, even though it's a large market here, what's the metro number here right now? Like, can you look up the updated?
Yeah, maybe close to 400.
Close to 400,000.
Everything.
And right, and then the percentage of that are actually going out to eat are probably 20% or something, I would think. And then you have competitors coming to the market, and it's not even about, really, is this place any better or worse? It's about location and convenience.
For sure.
And so all those things thrown in the mix, and it's like you have a place that's amazing, but what are you doing? Just burning the dollars at that point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And really the overhead of the building. So the building's still is for sale right now. So anybody out there looking, I give you free tequila for life if you buy my building. And I think it just needs, and we've had a lot of the experienced, high-end operators in town, some regionally have looked. And so I think it just needs to be that building at today's overhead needs to be a sit-down, higher-end, that can, a plate of food that can command, instead of a $15, $20 burger meal, a $40 or $50 a person, whatever meal, and dress it up. It'll do awesome. It's a beautiful building. It's in the right part of town. Shreveport's, it's really gotten closer to being the center of town. Yeah. Right off the interstate. And so location's great, building's great. I think it just, the overhead needs to be something that command a higher price.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at. It's like people don't realize, they think that they see something shut down and they're like, oh, another business, didn't make it. I'm like, well, there's a lot of variance to that, right? Yeah. It's a decision. Like, it's the decision. Do I just keep pouring everything into this and minimalizing my, return to where it's just basically either breaking even or even not, or, in the red to even stay open? Like, how long can you do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've, when people get online and say, oh no, why did they close? And you see that with every restaurant on every Facebook post. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, let me tell you something.
People understand.
Successful restaurants, or even, moderately successful ones, people get burnt out, people get sick. Most of the time, those restaurants pass on to somebody else. I've done that. We bought Jacquelyn's, but A restaurant is a business with many moving parts. The P&L, I tell people any line of that P&L can break a restaurant because the margins on a good day are very low.
Yeah.
And if you have something like this super inflation that comes on, or competition, or any mix of that, it's time to pull the plug and move on.
Well, wonder what are the numbers? Can you look like nationwide? What are the numbers? You said this made me curious, like of the actual restaurants that open, like the length of time they stay.
They say 3 years is a success,
right? And that's,
quote unquote.
I mean, that's
right.
Because you see there's staples in areas, but that may have made it 2 or 3 generations, but man, that's very, very rare.
Yeah. It's a roll of the dice. I mean, I opened and closed one in Bossier that didn't make it 3 years. I tried to wait, and I said, I don't want to open a restaurant in a honeymoon. I want to be sure whatever numbers I'm doing in Shreveport is my baseline.
Yeah.
Dude, I waited, and I mean, that restaurant in Shreveport, the first 2.5, 3 years, it was just incredible. So I said, well, damn, after 3 years, I must be onto something. So that's the baseline I'm going to use in my projections. Family's been in Bossier for a long, long time. I said that airline drive corridor, traffic's a mother, but it seems to be underserved with burgers.
Yeah.
Well, so I opened there. Bro, within 2.5 years, Whataburger, Walk-Ons, and Buffalo Wild Wings opened within 2 blocks of it. You can't predict that, dude. It's a roll of the dice. That's business.
No.
So what you can do is try to make a financial decision after you've done everything that you can do, and then just move on.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Well, I mean, I think it's great, dude. And I was telling you too before we started, like, I love that place. We used to go, some friends of mine, we'd have business meetings there. We'd run in there, maybe even have a late afternoon meeting, grab a drink, love that place. It was super convenient to get to. Service was always great. Quality of the product was always great. So it's just, it sucks to have that conversation. But at the same time, I mean, dude, you had a good run of it there, and you're into other things now. And that's what I was going to talk about too. So what else are you into now?
Yeah. So, I used to go to Rhino uptown every single morning, Monday through Friday, to grab a cup of coffee. And I got to know a bunch of friends that got to know Matt Snyder as a marketing company. We ended up doing events together, and got to know Andrew Crawford, my now business partner, who owns Rhino. He's a few years younger than me. We knew each other, but not well. My father-in-law was one of the very best customers at Jacquelyn's Café, which is a 40-year-old lunch spot on my favorite stretch of Shreveport, stretch of street in Shreveport, Louisiana Avenue. And it's a cool lunch spot that still a lot of people aren't familiar with. Well, anyway, he came to me one day and said, Grant, they're talking about closing Jacquelyn's, the owners were just ready to retire, hang it up. Food quality's at an all-time high, but, he said, I don't know what's going on, but it's something you might want to look at. So he and Buddy Flett, he used to play guitar for me at Twisted every day. Buddy and the owner were best friends. They used to jam there like in the 80s at night.
Okay.
Practice there and stuff. I said, Buddy, is there any way you can get me one of their phone numbers or introduce me? Like, I've gone there, but I don't know these people. So this is maybe on a Monday, Tuesday. So I was in Rhino maybe Wednesday morning, and Andrew and I at this point are pretty close friends. And we talk about business deals, what we're hearing, what we're thinking. He said, that's funny. My dad, who was also one of their very good customers, has told me the same thing. What do you think we try to tag team this and reach out to them together? So we did, and I don't know, within a couple months later, we had met with them at their house a few times, the sweetest, dearest people, and we got their numbers, and we came up with, the product is we don't need to touch, but here's maybe 20 things, some tiny, some not so tiny, that we think we can do to improve the business financially on an expense side as well as growing the revenue side, because our generation was not going in there as much yet. Yeah. So, man, we did that, and we closed that deal in 2019, and so it's been 5 years later. The business has never done better, and we're thrilled. I love it. It is so much fun. Now, it is a unicorn of a restaurant. If there were more of those out there, I would do more of them.
Yeah.
But dude, that place is open Monday through Friday, 15 hours a week, closed every night, every weekend, every bank holiday. There's 6 employees that have been there anywhere from 3 to 35 years. It's a special place. It's in an old building in an old part of town, so the overhead is as low as you wouldn't even believe. But, It's special, and so we just said, let's not mess up a good thing. So we just, we added a menu and a website, and we added, some marketing and social media, and we got our friends in there and have done a few events at night. But for the most part, it's the same people cooking the same recipes, same ingredients, same pots and pans. Like, our customers have just been so thankful. Like, thanks for not messing it up.
Well, there's something to be said about that, because most of the time that's not the case. Most of the time there's something that's been there for so long, and either the second generation may take it over and things change, whether it's just quality control or lack of experience of someone coming in or selling to an outside, a third party, and then them coming in and saying, well, yeah, we know it's good, but I want to put my spin on it.
Yeah.
But no, I think you did it right. Like you said, you left everything the same and just added in the few traits it needed to get a different demographic in there, but not disturb the existing support. Right.
And a lot of it too is like, at the time we had between all of his stuff and some of mine, I had 5 or 6 locations that each had dumpsters serviced by a couple different companies. So I knew that the price we're paying for a dumpster was too high. Or I knew I could cut our linen bill in half by rolling it in with all of our other stuff. Just a lot of stuff like that just comes with scale.
Yeah.
So that customers don't even see. So anyway, that was 2019, and then 2020 was Cuban. So
that's a hell of a time to get a liquor store too, bro.
Jesus, God. Feast or famine, restaurants and liquor stores.
Yeah.
They both went opposite directions. But I had told the owner there, who was the third generation owner, that business is coming up on 90 years old.
Whoa, really?
And so his grandparents founded that in Shreveport. It's one of the oldest continuously operated liquor stores in America. And,
didn't know that.
Yeah. So he had a couple sons younger than me, and I said, man, if you ever think about retiring or selling this business, please reach out to me. And so I think the day after Christmas 2019 he did. We started talking. Here comes January 2020, February, getting some good deal points together. We're agreeing on pretty much everything, and then the bottom drops out with COVID. So he actually shut down the first few weeks or maybe even months of COVID. Many liquor stores across the country did. And then we were scrambling with the restaurants, and that was just hell, man. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But then he reopened curbside, and then, like you said, the sales at every liquor store in America just went completely through the roof. And so we got the deal back on track, and we closed the deal in August of 2020. And that's been so that's our biggest business, between everything that we have going on and where I spend the majority of my time. It has been so much fun, and I love it. We talk about tequila. I've learned a lot about that. It's just cool because there are so many product lines in that store that you could spend a lifetime learning about. And what's also cool there is that, unless you're a chef at a restaurant, like you had Rodrigo on the other day.
Yeah.
So he or his brother can come up with a dish and they can put it out there and they can see the fruits of their labor. Well, I'm not a chef. So like running the restaurant, all I can do is execute and try to execute what we've got on the menu. But like at a franchise, you're not really creating.
Yeah, you can only do so much.
At Cuban, if you tell me about a tequila brand, or if we're talking, or I'm learning about mezcal, and we added mezcal into the store. And it is blown up. And then you go down that rabbit hole and tasting and finding suppliers and brands and all that. And just seeing the results of that, that's fun. That's what gets me excited, especially there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I got into, it's crazy because like, I guess it's one of those things coming from like a background of like, you grow out of drinking and partying for like the high school or college years or whatever, when you're not supposed to be. And then you get into like socially drinking. And then as you get older, it's like, okay, well now it's just about a quality cocktail for me. Right. For me, I'm not a big beer drinker, but even if you're a craft beer drinker, it seems to be the same thing. And it's like in the stage of your life now where you can appreciate those things, whereas 10 years ago, I don't care what brand it is. Give me a shot of something.
That's
now,
right.
Like when you say shot, I cringe. One, because I'm like, why? One, because it's probably a low quality, spirit.
Yeah.
Two, I want to enjoy what I'm drinking now. You know what I mean? And that's how we got it. That's how we got the whole like tequila talk segment. And thank you for supporting that. You've been supporting that since probably for the past 2 years. So thank you for that. And but yeah, man, I nerd out on the tequila thing because there's over the past, I guess really since celebrities started getting involved with these things, and I'm sure you can unfold that a little better than me, because you have a little more experience of researching these things. But like, I know as celebrities have gotten involved with getting into these different types of spirits, putting their money behind the distillers and stuff like that, they've been able to broaden the broaden the scope of what they can deliver. And I don't know, what have you seen since that's happened?
It was started with George Clooney, Casamigos, billion. Anytime you get a celebrity make $1 billion on any industry, you're gonna see some more celebrities come. Shortly thereafter, and so that's what's happened. And there's a few good ones that, especially like in bourbon, there's a few brands that maybe have a celebrity you might not even know about behind them, but in tequila, there's still so much misinformation out there and so much. And it's even legal. So I've really devoted a lot to learning about and then telling my customers about additive-free tequila. Yeah. And so I've got, I think, the largest selection of additive-free tequila in Louisiana, an entire gondola at the very end of our tequila aisle from top to bottom, from well tequila to $200-$300 bottles that are all certified additive-free. And so, that's the unfortunate part about the celebrity thing is just, they put their name behind something, or it's just like most liquor, the nicer the bottle, you would think the nicer the liquid inside, but it's the opposite. If you're buying that celebrity name or you're buying that fancy bottle, the liquid inside is going to be the last thing they're worried about. Yeah. So that's what we try to educate customers on more than anything. I've seen a good quality just in what I've tasted. Sorry, I didn't know we were going to tequila rabbit hole it. Whatever. We'll talk about it for a second. Yeah. I don't want to hold you up too much, but like I've seen a good quality in like Fortaleza's taken off. It's a great product. I know I think that's small shop, but it's grown immensely in the past couple of years. But Terramana's been really great, in my opinion, like what The Rock has done with taking that family-owned, production and basically scaling it up, but keeping the quality there. And I don't even know if it's added free or not, is it? I don't think it is, but there's still, even though it's not certified, you can still, if it doesn't taste like yellow birthday cake, right? If you can taste the agave, that's the point of it. I mean, that's what you really learn about. Like Lalo, as much as I push, Casamigos is still our number one brand. I do. I'm not going to tell a customer. It is added free. Okay. But like Lalo's our number 2 brand because that's one that we've really gotten behind in the store. It's $45. It's a silver. It's at the price point to where you can sip it, neat or mix with it. It's Don Julio's grandson. It's got a great story. It's got 3 ingredients: water, champagne yeast, and agave. That's it. Yeah. So it's cool to convince a customer on the floor to take a swing on that, and they come back a few weeks later, man, where's that Lalo? I love that. And so just starting to convert customers onto the additive free. I get excited about that stuff, and I rant too much. I'm gonna shut up in a second, but like I do get excited about that, and we're just gonna have you come back for tequila. So we'll do it. I'll hang out with tequila. Yeah. But I do get excited about it because people just don't realize, and you have this long time. And look, I'm not condoning like over drinking or something, but I am a supporter of. Had a long day, it's hot, have a beer, have a cocktail, relax. Yeah. I'm not one of, have I overindulged in the past? Sure. Yes, of course, but I'm not one to support that. But I do really like where we've gotten in this, I guess the season we are right now, as we're having options, like not just saying, do you want a well bar, or do you want Crown, or do you want Tito's, or do you want, Patron? Like I like having the option, and not only the options, but the significant difference in the options. You know what I mean? And what's been fun also about Cuban that I love is working with other local business owners in that segment. So you had Chase on. He's one of my best friends. So he's really, obviously at Fatty's, he's got a crazy whiskey wall. So we can talk shop. We've got a barrel coming out, I think tomorrow, on a barrel pick that we did together. And he's doing this, high-end bar caterings and stuff to where he can tell people, oh, you like that? Get it at Cuban. Or people call us that we do bar catering, but I had one last week that wanted a real in like a mixology type situation. I said, call him. Yeah. Rodrigo, we did a mezcal barrel together. So, and then a lot of the high-end restaurants in town, we work together on wine lists and stuff. So I love that. I mean, I love working with these business owners together, because we can co-promote each other and kind of, because a lot of it, Shreveport as a city is in the liquor world is pretty small. Louisiana as a state in the liquor world is pretty small. So to get into a lot of these brands, you've got to really outperform your demographic. And so the more of it I can sell and they can sell together, we can have access to more distributors, more brands.
That's what people don't understand. That's what people don't understand. There's so many different restrictions there where if you can't really get it from a distributor, you can't get it.
Legally get it.
You can't legally sell it. You know, it's like, so, and that's what people don't understand. They're like, well, I was in Arizona, Phoenix, and we were there, and they had this amazing. We can't get that yet. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying it, but like you have to have enough demand for it.
Right, and so that really, you know, Shreveport way punches above its weight on a lot of these products, just because, dude, we've got like restaurants and bars. The quality we have for the size of our town is crazy in Shreveport Bossier, so that really helps. You know? Yeah,
I think I got to get with you. I want to get together on a barrel one to do like a pick, but also we've talked about this on the show, you may have heard it, but I've been on Jose's ass. We got to do a beer with, like, you know, aged in a tequila barrel.
Yeah.
So like we need to get together on that.
Because a lot of our empty barrels, Tap will take and do, you know, they'll age a beer in it.
Right. I want to do like a tequila barrel, man. Be cool. But I'd like to do the pick first, like I don't even know how how's that process work? Walk me through that, because people have been doing that with you. So
yeah, so I mean, a barrel pick it started out most popular in the bourbon world. So take something like Maker's Mark. They have these rick houses full of tens of thousands of barrels of Maker's Mark, and so they want Maker's today to taste like it did 5 years ago, and they want it to taste like it will 25 years from now. And so to do that, your whiskey, what they call their mash bill, their recipe, it stays the same. But every barrel is a little unique. Even if it's the same type of oak, charred for the same amount of time, put in the same building, the floor, the weather, if it's a cold winter or a hot summer, all that varies. So they can take a couple thousand barrels of Maker's Mark through a tasting panel, put it all together, and that's a blend basically of a bunch of individual barrels. That every one of those individual barrels tastes a little different. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'd be damn shocked how different that Maker's can taste out of that one barrel. So a lot of customers and stores like that, and so they will have the ability to pick one barrel out of that 100,000, and they will put the store's name on that label and they'll bottle it and ship the entire contents of that barrel, typically 180, 200 bottles, to the store, and even ship the empty barrel with it. And so some products like Woodford Reserve, Makers, you can pretty well get. You can call them up and say, hey, I want a barrel, and they'll say, okay, awesome, we'll send you three samples, and if you're lucky, go do it in Kentucky. Other brands that are hard to get, it's a lot harder to make that happen. You have to maybe be a bigger store, have a connection or whatever. But that's basically how it happens. So you're starting to see that we've done a couple tequila barrels. We did a Corazon that's owned by Sazerac, who also owns Blanton's, Eagleware, Weller, all that. So we had a Corazon Repo tequila barrel that had been aged in a Weller bourbon barrel. In the tequila world, most of their products are second use, at least, barrels. So they're getting all that from bourbon world anyway.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see a lot of the bourbon companies, partner up with tequila brands.
I would be interested to see that. Yeah, and I would be interested to see what the difference of a barrel aged, beer would taste like versus one that's not only has that barrel been used for whiskey first, and then tequila, and then mixing a beer in it. So
that'd be fun.
We got to collaborate on that, dude, because I know enough people we can get together and get that many bottles sold for sure.
That's what's cool too. I mean, that's another thing another example of partnering with other businesses to grow your scale. Like a lot of those stores in South Louisiana, and certainly in other markets, they may have 5 or 10 stores that are all bigger than Cuban. Well, they can do barrels left and right.
Right. You have the demand.
We don't have that pull through, so instead I partner with somebody like a Key Mexico or a Fatty Arbuckles, another tier of that retail, to put our forces together to be able to do that. So he can pour them as his household fashion at Fatty's for a few weeks or months, and then instead of me committing to 200 bottles, maybe only have to commit to a fraction of that.
Yeah.
So anything like that. Also, if you got a group, do a pre-sale. that gives the retailer a lot more, safety net of reaching out there and doing barrels like that.
We got this whole block, man. We'll put some kind of craft cocktail together and get creative for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, man, I get excited about that, and I get excited. The more you talk about this, the more I start thinking, how many people I know who's been in that industry and have absolutely no knowledge of the actual spirits.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or the product in a whole, like whether it be the beer, like I can tell you do, which is exciting because not only did you acquire this business and you're now even scaling it more than what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, 10 years from 100 years old, that's insane to even think about.
It is.
One, like to be, I mean, what year was Prohibition? Like, really, like
30s,
yeah. So it's like we're right past that, right?
And the laws have changed a lot since then, and that's an ever evolving deal too. But it's just learning about having friends. I mean, that's what I've been lucky to have friends that have, let me tag along and learn. Like my first deal was craft beer, and that's really what I hung my hat on at Twisted. Lindsay Nations and I went to middle school together. I really didn't know him that well, but she reached out when Great Rap was getting spun up, and I said, yeah, whatever I can do, let's partner up. So me and my wife and her husband Andrew became friends. I mean, they let me come with them early on to DC, and I met some like icons in the beer world, and got to be up close and personal with breweries and bars, and brought back a ton of ideas, contacts in New Orleans, Dallas. We went to Tulsa. So you just start to learn, and then that just gives you enough encouragement to reach out there, and because most people are pretty cool. If you ask a question, they'll answer it, you know. And so, but just bringing a lot of that stuff to Shreveport for the first time is a risk, and so you want to know, have a little bit of a foundation knowledge of doing it.
I want to say one more thing, then I have to ask you a question that's funny about this market. But like, so, excuse me, people that are in the liquor store industry, most of them, what I was going to say following up to that is they're at the mercy of the distributor and the knowledge what the distributor's giving them. Yeah. They don't care enough, or they don't have the time, or they don't want to put the effort into learning every single product, because who knows if it's going to sell, whatever. Mm-hmm. So what made you decide to do that when you took this over?
It would, just like with Jacquelyn's, but on a bigger scale, we had a host of items and ideas that we wanted to do to grow Cuban. Now, it was doing great from a top and bottom line standpoint, but you always want to grow. But what really pushed us into these new product lines was COVID. A lot of that growth that we talked about was people starting to bartend at home because all their restaurants were closed.
Got you.
And so you had an explosion in bourbon and tequila for sure, but you also had gins and cognacs and all kind of RTDs and all kind of product lines explode. And so with that increase in sales, we committed to, instead of putting that in our pocket or paying down the business even faster than we had planned, we put that into inventory first. So we grew our inventory that first year and a half or 2 years substantially. And we had always, I think Cuban's always been known as a place to go to get the new or the weird or the different. And so we just put that in overdrive. And COVID was a good time to do that because of that experimentation people were doing at home.
I got you.
And so that's, and it's still continuing. I mean, the store is only so big, but I mean, we've added, you go in there on the bourbon and tequila aisle, you'll see like basically a fifth shelf that we've added of like,
you definitely have the broadest selection for sure, and quality.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always changing. Like I got heavy in the non-alcoholic space.
That's getting crazy too.
I mean,
have you looked into? I don't even know what the legality is, but so I have some stuff that I've acquired. It's legal, but like the THC,
big time.
So do you
big time?
So are you selling that yet?
It's completely legal, and there's.
So you have it.
I could have a 3-hour podcast.
Oh hell yeah!
About the laws and stuff that have gone on the last few years, but. So with non-alcoholic, I started to hear about this athletic beer a couple years ago, and I tried some. I was like, "Damn,
what's the name of that one?"
Athletic beer.
That is athletic beer. Yeah.
And they're currently like a top 20 volume beer company in America, and they're non-alcoholic. They've got 2 facilities. They're backed by private equity and a lot of celebrities. And their IPA is better than many real IPAs I've tasted.
Really?
So I was buying that directly from them.
I pulled up there. Yeah. When you said Athletic Brewing, I was like, "Damn, is that is the name?"
And it's what I learned about that is that Yeah, so it's a lot of customers that don't want to drink for a variety of those reasons. But it's also a lot of athletes that don't want a hangover on a Wednesday, or they want to go mow the grass and have that feeling and that taste, but don't want to drink 10 beers. So calorie conscious. I mean, these beers are like 30, 40 calories. So I started with alcohol, like you said, you've got to buy from a distributor. But with non-alcohol, that's like buying Coke or a bag of chips. You can buy that from anybody. So I was reaching out to these people, buying them direct. And I started learning about non-alcoholic spirits and mixers, non-alcoholic wine. So I ended up with about 10 brands of beer, wine, and spirits that I was buying directly. And it was a real pain, but you're buying the stuff on FedEx and stuff. Fast forward a couple years later, I think 9 out of those 10 brands have been acquired either by alcoholic brands or by distribution. So now instead of buying athletic beer direct on FedEx, I'm buying it through the Miller Coors house, Glacier.
Got you.
That category, is a percent of the total pie at Cuban or in America. It's small, but it's explosive growth. And it's interesting that a lot of those customers also have alcohol in their basket. They just want an option in the middle of the week, or they want a low-cal option sometimes. So that's cool. THC was legalized a few years ago in Louisiana. This last legislative session had a lot going on with that. Basically, they're trying to, it was kind of like the Wild West, even though it was legalized. The amount that you could put in a can was very high, and they wanted to back that down. The age was 18. They raised it to 21. The amount of cans in a package, but that's also explosive growth.
Yeah.
And that is 25 to 40-year-old women is the primary demographic.
Really?
Yes.
So we recently had some. Will you look up that mushroom spirit that I can't remember the name of it, but nowadays the THC spirit that we tried recently I like. It has a unique flavor to it. You can really just consume it straight up on the rocks. Yeah. It's not like the canned seltzers, but I've also had the canned seltzers and Little Saints. It's Little Saints. Okay. So that one's been great. We've tried it. It gave me more like it's lion's mane based. It's not like psilocybin or nothing like that. So it gave me more like just a chill, kind of like chill but not high. You know what I mean? And then the THC, the nowadays, I think that one's called a microdose version. It similar to if you're going to consume an edible or something, but it was such a low, like 5 milligrams.
Yeah, and five is the standard.
Right.
That's now the max. So.
Oh, really? So they don't.
It was 50.
But they do have some of those cans that are 50. Are they not here anymore?
That's legal until January 1st.
That shit is...
It's crazy.
Whew.
And that was part of the problem.
What's the name of that brand?
Crescent 9.
Yeah, dude, that's it.
And that's the top brand in Louisiana. That's the one we sell the most of as a brand. But what you're also seeing is this has ate into the whole segment of the industry, but it ate into a lot of the craft beer segment. And so a lot of breweries are starting to spin up their own brands.
Really?
So like the Louis brand that we sell is canned at a brewery in New Orleans. The, what's another one? So we've got Louis, Crescent 9. Drifty is owned by and canned at a large brewery in New Orleans. We just put in Eighth Wonder out of Houston that's canned and owned by Eighth Wonder, which is an iconic craft brewery in Houston.
And these are all like THC based?
All THC based. And so it's a way for the breweries, they've got, now it's a separate knowledge base, but they've basically got the know-how of how to create, manufacture, and can an alcoholic beverage. So that industry's hurting, and so they're pivoting and spinning up. And sometimes they're across the street from each other. Sometimes they legally can't be in the same facility, but they've got the know-how, and so you're starting to see that.
That's what's interesting. It's always been an interesting. Like there's so many from state to state how crazy it is, and then the laws that that are built around that, and then where it comes to the THC thing versus the the flower thing and the intake, and there's so many layers to that, and really. I've had multiple conversations with people over the past few years about this, and even people that are, literally experts in that field. And it's funny to see how much it evolves on a month-to-month basis, not even a year-to-year basis, Yeah. I mean, I know they set these things where like XYZ date's going to go into effect, but still like the transition of what we've seen in the past since 2020, really.
I'm kind of a nerd by nature, especially with like laws and regulations, whatever industry that I'm in. and have some good friends that have been at the local and state level in various forms of politics. And so, even with that, it's hard to keep up with. But I think the framework now is reasonable, and as long as everybody knows the shifting, the back and forth is what hurts. It hurts the businesses and the consumers. So, but it's not over yet. I mean, I think nationally they're talking about rolling back marijuana to a class 3. And so I think by the time my kids are grown, the industry will continue to look different, a lot different.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too, because this is not something that, it was. I can get on this whole rant, but and I'm not like an avid user or any. Like, I might try the THC thing or do something, but like, I'm not someone who consumes it daily or anything.
Right.
But I'm just an advocate of like giving people another form of whether it be taking steam out, like unloading steam for a day, or using like something versus like different than a prescription medication. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? For some type of treatment, especially if there's no actual proof that it's doing something to damage you long term, internally or externally. You know what I mean?
And they're as old as marijuana and alcohol is as old as humanity itself.
Yeah, man.
So.
And it's funny. It's funny to see like what alcohol started as and what it's what it is now, and the same thing with marijuana. And honestly, with THC, marijuana, whatever, those things would have progressively changed years ago had they not had so many limitations on them. You know what I mean? And so you got. Which Jacquelyn's, I honestly have not been there since you guys. I need to go visit and then try it. We'll go try it here soon for lunch. But I haven't been there since you guys acquired it, and also I've been to Cuban a lot. And then you said recently you're getting back into the family business too, right?
Yeah. So when I was a year old, my dad and his cousin, who was also his partner, opened Twin Cities Car Wash in Bossier in 1984. And so growing up, that was a family business. I mean, that's the only job I ever had, and I did everything that a 12-year-old could do, other than drive a car, I guess. I mean, I remember setting up at the counter with our cashier who was there for a long, long time, and then vacuuming cars, spraying them down, drying them off and finishing them out. The oil change was built in the 90s, I think, so learning that. And so originally the plan was my dad's Uncle Tommy, my dad's partner, passed away last year, and his son Donnie has been working at the car wash a long time and basically running it with my dad. He took over, his dad's half, and the plan originally was not for me to be in that business. I was at Hardware Resources and for a while, and then with Twisted for a while, but as I've gotten kind of more diversified and I've started to learn how to handle multiple businesses. Each of these businesses, is important to note, has a series of a manager, full-time managers, and that is so important. It's important. Most days I'm at every business. Maybe if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, but all days there's a full-time manager there that's overseeing the staff and the customers and stuff. And people are like, how do you do multiple, and that's why, like Roy Griggs is a mentor of mine, and he had like 12 or 15 McDonald's. He wasn't at every McDonald's every day, right. But I promise you he was at most of them, most days. And so my cousin approached my dad and was like, hey, you ought to see if Grant may be interested to, come in here. And, a couple months ago, I put one of my computers there to where I can, on a downtime, I could maybe do some ordering at Cuban or do some research, check emails, whatever. But I've started to learn the part that I didn't know, which was the inside. And as a kid, you don't even think about like the physically, how do you operate, how do you schedule maintenance and all this kind of stuff. And dude, I've loved it. It's been so much fun. So I've just been there maybe 3 months and working there a couple days a week. And so that's kind of that and the Rhino Southern Made. It's kind of what I talked about that.
Yeah. So about the car wash, real quick. That's exploded overnight. I know you guys have probably been the staple in this area for having a full service. Like not only it's not a like. All these ones are coming up left and right on every corner.
That industry's changed a lot, dude.
It has, but I always, if I'm going to use one, I prefer to use one like that where I'm actually getting, when I pull out of there, like I'll drop my vehicle off, I'll sit down and wait 10 or 15 minutes, and when I get in it, it's almost like it was damn near professionally detailed quadruple the price of what I'm paying, right?
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean that. So the quick drive-through car washes, they definitely serve a purpose. They're fast, they're convenient, they're everywhere, they're less expensive. Ours is people call and ask, do you do detailing, which we used to do. We don't anymore, but you know.
But it's damn near.
It's what people are really asking. Because when they ask a car wash person, do you do detailing, they're talking about the 3-hour, $300 hand wax, shampoo the carpet, and all that. But what I've learned now is most customers, they're asking for what we do on every car.
Exactly.
You've got almost 10 employees touching your car for the whole course of the thing. You drive in, you've got 2 different people physically vacuuming and out your car. They're taking out like used to. I remember as a kid doing the carpet mats. There's very few of those now. It's these damn rubber mats.
Yeah,
you got to take the rubber mats out, spray them, and we power wash them, wipe them down. Then come around the back. We have one guy that preps the car with a soap and the tires. Another guy literally with boiling hot water pressure washes. You basically hand washing your car. Then it goes through a computerized tunnel that has all different types of soaps and roller wheels and all different types of brushes, and it's spraying from up top and underneath and the side. It's blown off and wiped down by hand. And then for 15 minutes, you've got an employee that is finishing out your entire car, wiping it down inside and out, the windows, which I tell people, to me, like half of a car wash is just having clean windows.
Oh, yeah. Well, like a clean interior, clean windows. No watermarks. Like
that's
after I run through something, like if I'm going to spend the money, you know, and and like I always enjoyed that. So I had literally before you come in here, I'm excited about this. I know it's
really the first time I've publicly talked about it, just because I really wanted to get in there, and I thought in my head, okay, a couple days a week, and if I put a computer in the office, and I've got the ability, like there's managers there. I mean, there's employees that have been there since day one. It's crazy. So I knew that there was that stability to where I could operate my other businesses, you know. And if there's a fire somewhere that I need to go put out, you know, the city ain't that big.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to take the opportunity to learn that part of the business that I didn't know from my dad while he was still there, you know, actively in the business, which he's going to continue to be. He's 82. Most people don't realize he's that old, but he just loves it. He says it's what's kept him young and going. But there's something special about a family business, and have that next generation continue to operate it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, man, it really is. Especially someone it seems like you grabbed the bull by the horns and done other things. It's not like you just jumped right into that and only did that. You've actually got to experience different markets.
And it's cool. I mean, I've already started to do things like different ways that we used to promote the restaurant. You know, promoting there's a lot of space, I think, to continue to promote and grow that business.
Yeah, there really is. Yeah, there really is.
But yeah, that business every industry changes, and it's been fun getting in there and remembering how things used to be. And customers, I mean, a ton of our customers come from Shreveport, you know, because if they're going to spend the money, they want to spend it at their favorite place, and they may do a drive-through car wash once or twice a month, but when they want it done to the full extent, they'll cross the river and come see us, you know. And then, you know, it's been a staple in Bossier a long time, and so it's pretty cool.
And then, last but not least, for sure, getting into this new space with the coffee and the donuts, man. Let's talk about that.
So Andrew Crawford, my partner at Cuban and Jacquelyn's, he created Rhino Coffee.
Yeah, shout out Andrew. He's a great guy, man.
Great guy, sweetest guy in the world. He's a trip. He's involved in so much too. I mean, he's got, you know, marketing and web design companies, and he's in all kind of stuff too that people don't necessarily know about. But he had and still has the uptown location on Piermont in Line. That's his first location. He still has his downtown location. And years ago, so I live in Providence. I was the second homeowner in that neighborhood. I'm in my third house out there. I love it. I bought it.
It's exploded too. I was out there yesterday.
So anyway, he comes to me one day and says, "Hey, they're going to build a new commercial building right on Southern Loop. I'm thinking about putting a coffee shop out there." I was like, "That's a great idea," you know. And things moved pretty slow as far as those negotiations. This was before they even broke ground on it. Then he finally said, "I've signed the lease. They're breaking ground." And a few months later, I said, "Man, have you thought about like more of a food component?" You know, he has a pretty heavy breakfast and lunch, you know, food menu. But I was like, "Have you thought about even beefing that up even more on the breakfast side of things?" Because I was like, there is very little breakfast options out here. And I said, I was thinking about like a coffee and donut situation, like a locals Dunkin' Donuts, like a coffee and donut, but 2 local brands. Southern Made Rhino Coffee could be pretty awesome. And, I don't think that either would cannibalize on each other that much. And so we talked about it, and we finally said, hell, let's see if we can do this. And so the Southern Made brand is really, especially from like the back of the house, like the franchise whole model of it's very interesting and unique. But we started to learn through the grapevine that they're not just going to give anybody a franchise here locally. It doesn't matter how experienced you are, how much money you got. So we approached Gil McElroy. I grew up with one of his daughters, and Gil has the 70th Street location. Great operator, been there a long time. And we knew that he had the relationships and the knowledge too. And so what we had talked about, anytime you do a standalone business by itself, especially if you're building one out, that business has to support that entire operation. In other words, if you have to build out a kitchen and a lobby and have a cashier and another cashier at the drive-through, if it's only a Southern Made, that Southern Made menu's got to support all that.
Yeah.
But if Rhino is already going to be there, this is what I'm telling Andrew. I said, if Rhino is already going to be there, paying for that build out, that whole lobby, paying for this cashier and that one, what if you just built out a little bit bigger kitchen and then you bolt on the Southern Made menu, and now the customer walks in, they're still talking to that one cashier, but she's got, instead of just the Rhino on her POS, she's got 2 menus. And so that's kind of the genesis and the idea of how that all came about. And I mean, Gil he's a wealth of knowledge. The Southern Made brand, it's real unique. Basically, you have to buy their flour and you've got to buy their boxes. And I've been to Southern Maids that look like a short order kitchen, look like George's. There's a Southern Made, I think, in Tokyo and California. I mean,
tell me about that brand. Like, how many franchises are there?
I don't know, but it started in Dallas, and the operation is still there.
Okay.
But the one in Shreveport was one of the very first ones, and that's why a lot of people think it's a Shreveport brand.
Yeah, because it's so localized. I mean, for the longest time, I knew it was a Texas-based. When I was telling you before, like I researched, but it's so localized, and it's exciting too, because it's funny, that industry, like, you see a donut shop on every busy corner, right? Yeah. But none of them are. It doesn't seem like they're sustainable, which I know the margins are probably high as hell, and also, like, I mean, no matter what, people are going to roll through and get them. But like, even Krispy Kreme didn't last year.
Yeah,
which is insane, right?
It's you're right about the margins, but it's just like the coffee business. It's high margin but low dollar point.
Gotcha.
So if you're paying, if you're in a building that's whatever the rent is, 30 plus, maybe with triple net, almost $40 a square foot, bro, you got to do some volume.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea, trying to up that spend, or at least have multiple revenue streams inside that existing footprint.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we knew it would be a challenge that had never been done before as far as the 2 brands together. So that was a challenge.
That's another thing. How do you get approval on like doing something hybrid like that?
I mean, as long as you're not messing with somebody else's flour,
so
and
as long as
somebody else's
you're
donuts,
not, so this is this,
like that one in Bossier that burned down. I mean, they had hamburgers and
that's
all
right.
Kind of stuff.
Well, then hamburger, the place that's been in Minden forever. We're growing
Happiness,
up. Hamburger Happiness.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So. And so that's kind of the idea, and it was our first experience with drive-through. A lot of first, so a lot of learning opportunities. We dropped balls and we tried to improve, and I think operationally we've gotten a lot better. And it's always kind of a test concept. That area is growing, but it's still by no means the highest trafficked part of town. And so we felt like if we could make it work there, prove the concept out, that's a brand, as far as brands that have legs, that I do believe could have legs if the right opportunities and presented themselves. And I mean, everything besides taking time and money takes manpower to execute. You can say, I want to go do 20 whatever restaurants, but you've got to have a plan of execution. And what I love is being able to have it starting with something locally. That you can really, tease all that out and figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work, how much traffic do we need, and so it's been great.
Yeah.
I love it. It's dangerous to live out there. I go there every morning for my cup of coffee, and it's sure dangerous having all those kolaches and Southern Made Donuts to be able to just walk in and grab. So I've been trying my best to.
There's nothing better
keep a slim profile.
There's nothing better. You can say Krispy Kreme all day long, but there's nothing better than a hot Southern Made, man. Dude. Like that. Do you have the sign? Do you have the hot sign?
No, we need to get
the hot sign.
So the other thing that we've learned is that there's some Southern Maids are. The hot after 4 o'clock, they're built toward the evening crowd. They're not even open early in the morning. Where we've got somebody coming there at 4:35 in the morning, and we're open at 6:30 with hot donuts because we're catering more toward the breakfast crowd.
Right.
We close it at 5:30.
Right.
So that's been cool to see too, to learn about which customer segment, which time of day which day part are you going after?
Yeah.
So
no,
that's pretty cool.
There's nothing better, dude. My problem is I'll eat a whole dozen.
It's like a Johnny's pizza. You could eat the entire thing. If it's
same
hot,
thing, bro. Same thing. I will demolish it. Yeah. Well, what I was going to ask you earlier is what I really just kind of put this out there. Like, isn't it interesting? First off, what made you stay here? Because there's so many people that are quick to leave, and me being one of them, because I was contemplating it for a long time, and then things happen. I met my wife, kids, decided to double down here, and then once I really decided to, I realized, man, there's so much opportunity here. I was just so focused on getting away because I didn't think, instead of realizing what I may have to contribute or who I could team up with. So
it starts with family, Same. My mom's side of the family got here in 1863. Dad's family got to Bossier Parish before that, Plaindale area. So, I mean, family, get back, had a great job opportunity and loved it and learned a lot. But that was, leaving there, that was a point of, am I going to stay or not? Well, by then I had met my now wife, who also had family here a long, long time and also had a love of family here. Luckily, the parents and grandparents at the time all here. And so then you learn the things that you can do in a town of this size, getting to know people, having those connections. And if you want to make an impact somewhere, you can do it. So when some friends and I, me, Matt, and Andrew wanted to kind of up the local magazine game, and we kind of resurrected Shreveport Magazine for a few years, doing the festivals like Crawfest and Derby Day, with hard work, you can do these things, but these are not things you can do with hard work easily in bigger towns, So, I mean, I think that was a lot of it too. And just being able to try new things and make an impact. It's an easier place to make an impact. And so I think that's probably what's kept us here.
Yeah. Do you think, cause you hear it all the time, man, you hear oh man, we need it. It's always the Dallas reference. Yeah. And for me, it was maybe Tyler, because that's a little halfway in between in a great market, similar to this one, but also different, Right. But I don't know, man. It's something about when you really sink your feet into these roots, there's a lot more potential than most people would say.
There is, and I mean it's hard. I mean, it would be. I tell people with the restaurant, it'd be a hell of a lot easier if I was in Plano with a 5 or 10% population growth tailwind.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people ask about the restaurant business in Shreveport, and I'll say if they're our age, I'll say, you remember when we were kids in 70th Street and Erie Drive or Cotton Fields?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now they're full of restaurants. The population then was 20,000 more than it is now.
Yeah.
So that's all you need to know. So we've got to change. Basically that, we've got to grow the disposable income here, and we've got to bring in more people. But to that point, man, I'm super bullish. I mean, dude, Shreveport, Bossier, there's been a lot of job announcements the last few years.
I wanted to segue into that because I've seen you post and I see you on this.
Knowing what's going on at the port especially, but also the medical corridor, also Barksdale, also just manufacturing and distribution here. We got a lot in Shreveport, Bossier that can't be replicated, like an airport and 2 interstates and a navigable river and the only intersection of north, south, east, west railroad in the country. And I mean, we got a lot going on. And so that's the genesis of a lot of that. Now, who could have this 50-cent stuff? Nobody could predict.
I wanted to bring that up next.
You gotta give the man upstairs,
because I haven't talked about that at all.
You got to give the man upstairs props for that.
Yeah.
What
do you think the motivation is for him?
Well, I will say what we did have is that studio, and so if somebody like him has one of the most prolific TV filmmakers in the world, has a book of business of that size. He wants to capitalize on that as much as he can. So he wants to find an area that he can go into and not have to build something of that scale, that he can walk into as low a cost as possible and get to work. And then in the meantime, if you're somebody like him that's involved in entertainment and the spirits industry and stuff, maybe also be in an area where he can capitalize on that while he's here. So, I'm not a big fan of cities like getting in the real estate business to that extent, but what I am a fan of is like, if you own a building that's empty, let's put that to use.
Yeah.
And so through the course of Katrina and then the Louisiana tax credits, making Louisiana a great place to film, all that went to New Orleans. Katrina hits New Orleans. A lot of that comes to Shreveport. Then you have Millennium, and then it started to go away. The city ended up buying that space. Well, I don't know the backstory how he found it, but the city basically said, look, we've got this empty building. It's costing us a couple $100,000 a year. Take the keys to it, pay us $100 a month or whatever it is. And so early on, you see a lot of haters just starting to chatter. And so I'm up Facebook one night looking in my rocking chair, a couple whiskeys deep, and I'm like, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to put my 2 cents out on 50 cents. And basically showed people it's costing the city a couple $100,000 a year to maintain this empty building. Give the building, you're not giving it to him, you're giving him a very low-cost lease. The city still owns the property. He moves his entire base of operation there, which is already going to, save the city on the building.
Right.
But then all these what we call spin-off effects.
Well, you seem to purchase multiple pieces of buildings already.
He's already purchased a couple $1 million worth of properties and buildings. He's picked one weekend, and in 90 days, he is literally going to occupy every major facility in Shreveport. He's going to occupy Independence Bowl. He's going to occupy Festival Plaza, the Convention Center, Expo Hall, and he bought a $1 million block downtown. He's going to build a temporary 30,000 square foot dome on it. And I talked to the local architect that's doing that deal last week. So, and all these celebrity stuff that come, and it's just, to me, it's icing on the cake. Most people don't realize that what that one weekend's going to look like.
Dude, the comedian space is like exciting, most exciting for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting because people only want to focus on the celebrity status of that, it's going to bring, but the opportunity, when you say bring so much opportunity, you can already see what's happening, right?
That's right.
You're already resurrecting dead space, which it's the more dead space you occupy, the less room for crime, and things that have been something of a topic of conversation for the past 5 or 6 years. You know what I mean? Like things like that are going to seem to move on somewhere else. If, some places occupied, high trafficked, more people in the area, stuff like that.
So, I think it'd be one thing if this was a no-name who was talking about getting into movies. But this is somebody
we've had a lot of that.
Well, Shreveport's gotten burned for sure. You should always be, cautious with your optimism or with any business deal. But, this is one that I really, at this point, based on what I know, I've had a hard time poking holes in. And this is somebody who is like, you talk about getting to work. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, at first it seemed too good to be true. I was like, my first thought was probably like most people's, because it's happened so many times where you see all this promise and then it never developed. It was like, I was like, bullshit. This has got to be some kind of like, I don't know, but like I was skeptical. Yeah. And then you start seeing these things where, okay, well now legally things are happening.
And I'll give you another example going all the way back to the celebrity-owned spirits. So most celebrity brands is like a stamp of endorsement. They sign some deal. So 50 owns his spirits company, Sire Spirits. He owns Branson Cognac and Chemin Noir Champagne. We sell both of them at Cuban. So through the distributor, I get wind that his spirits guy is coming to town. So I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to come meet me. This guy is one of the sharpest guys I've met in the spirits business. So 50 owns his products. This guy ran fine wine for the state of New York for one of the top distributors in America. So he's coming to Shreveport, and we're just brainstorming. He's an open book talking about my ideas, his ideas. And everybody that I've met that has dealt with his portfolio of business people is like that. He's from the persona on the outside, which is all you see, but then when you start to learn about how's businesses are set up and everything. I'm bullish on it. I mean,
Yeah.
and I try to be optimistic and realistic at the same time. But this is one that I'm pretty excited about.
Not to mention his story, man, coming from like being shot, being in gang violence, like coming from nothing. Like that dude. I mean, epitome of America. You know what I mean? Like of opportunity and
he's talked
risk
about,
and tolerance.
His foundation, what he's going to try to do with inner city youth and reading and fitness, and I think people are going to see a lot of that. I would imagine a couple businesses he'll bring to town is probably just for the benefit of the area and that downtown area. I mean, there's been talk of a grocery store and all kind of stuff. So, the lightning speed, we've never seen. A lot of this is a first, but the speed at which, from saying I'm going to do something and then doing it 10 times over. That's
been what's the biggest surprise to me, and also exciting because I keep seeing him like, look at this. Every day I open the phone, it's new information on this developing and actually happening.
If your base of operation has been New York and then Houston, you have a level of dealing with property values and doing business. You come to a town like Shreveport.
Oh, you expedite that.
So people here may say, God, he paid a couple $100,000 for that empty piece of property, or $1 million.
That's pennies.
Him, he's like, and I'm gonna throw a 30,000 square foot dome on top of it for a weekend. And so we try to remind people, just like I try to remind myself, like, don't look down on yourself. Sometimes it takes people from the outside to show you what you've got.
Well, you can only, dude. You're only one person. You know what I mean? Like your impact, like you've done great, and you've done all these things, but you are only one person. You can only do certain many things, and that dude has teams of hundreds and hundreds of people. Like, and just like you have teams, and then you have a network, and then leveraging those relationships, and that's all about growth. If we're not doing it all together, like it's not going to happen.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Well, look, man, it's been fun today.
It's been great, dude.
Any last thoughts? Any other plugs besides all the things we've already talked about?
No, I appreciate it. Just y'all support local any way you can, and see if we can do some collabs together. It'd be fun,
dude. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Yes.